So there are a lot of people losing their job right now. And I'm seeing a trend that I really would not advise anyone who's lost their job to follow. And what this trend is people are losing their job and then they're immediately running to YouTube to share their story, to share their testimony, talk about their experience, express their grief. And I understand how it can be this form of like cathartic relief for a lot of people. I know that, this is a way for them to express themselves and they might turn to YouTube to do this. But if you can help it, right, I would avoid it. Now, I understand that for some people, it's either turn to YouTube or do something worse. And I'd much rather you use YouTube as your outlet than do something worse that could do even more damage to your personal life or your professional career. But the reason why I wouldn't recommend this is for the same reason why I've never shown my face on this channel, right? And that's because having a corporate job and having a social media presence is a very tricky balance. And there are some people who have been able to do it and some people who are not able to do it. The people who can have a corporate job while also still being very public on social media and having a very public presence on YouTube, usually those are people who are in like very anomalous situations. They're very unique. They're like a one of one in their industry. They know that their company needs them. They have some level of skill or expertise, or there's something about them that makes them untouchable. And when you're in that position of power where companies are looking for you and when you're highly sought after, you will have a certain level of leeway and leverage to put yourself out there on the internet. An example is somebody like Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith is a person who has a corporate job because he has bosses at ESPN that he has to report to. He can't just go do what he wants. If they tell him that he needs to be at this location to cover this sporting event, he's got to do it. You know what I mean? He has bosses. But at the same time, a lot of the ratings that ESPN um, is able to enjoy is because of Stephen A. He's kind of a one of one in the industry. And so that puts him in a unique position of power where he can have his corporate job at ESPN, but then also have his own completely separate social media presence where he's able to talk about whatever he wants and there is no like non-compete issues that he has with ESPN. Because think about it, they're in the business of creating content and he's also creating his own content. And I think the only reason why he's able to do that at that level is because he's Stephen A. And he's just one of many examples of people who are able to do that. But somebody, if you're someone who, you're at a first level management position in your company, second, third, even fourth level management position, in most cases, you are not going to really be in a position to where you can be a YouTube celebrity while also having a corporate gig. Usually the two just don't work that way. And what I'm seeing a lot of people, and it's really sad, but a lot of people are losing their jobs right now. And the first place that they're going to is YouTube to share their testimony. Um, this is not something that I would recommend because a lot of times, what a lot of these companies are doing now before they hire people is they're checking their social media, they're checking their YouTube, their Facebook, their Instagram. They're looking at your digital footprint to see how much of a liability you can be. So I get how you could get fired from a job and it would be easy for you to take on this F the world attitude and start airing out your dirty laundry and talking about how much you never liked your manager anyway and talk about how the corporate policies with regards to XYZ made it unfair and unjust for this group of people and that group of people. And it's so easy for you to kind of get on here and take a lot of these social and political stances. But what you fail to realize is that if your intent or if your intention is to once again get any kind of corporate employment, it's going to be difficult for you depending on how much you crash out on the internet after losing your job. I just don't think that that is the smart thing to do. Personally, I just don't think so. Because again, companies are checking your digital footprint. There's a lot of ways that you can express yourself. There's a lot of message boards. You can start a Tumblr. You can start, some type of online Discord. There's a lot of things you can do, but putting yourself out there to that degree, and I get it. There's a sense of release when you make yourself vulnerable to the public, but it's not worth it in the long run because let's be honest, if 25,000 people get fired, even if 5,000 people get online and share their testimony, once you've shared your testimony, then what? Do you have a plan for content beyond you just getting online and saying that you lost your job? Is there a, is there a strategy behind, what you plan on doing in social media? Or did you just hope that you would post the I lost my job video and hope that it would get, 500,000 views and you would, become a YouTube success overnight? Because I think that's what a lot of people quietly hope will happen when they post these videos. But honestly, they're becoming abundant, right? A lot of people are getting online and saying the same thing. They're talking about how they're jobless, they're homeless, they're past their prime, they never bought a house, they never had kids, they never been in a relationship, they never been in love, they've never been loved. I've seen so many of these like self-deprecating videos pop up online. And while yes, many of them have gotten a lot of views, at the end of the day, they don't really lead to anything beyond those moments in time, those momentary videos. I think if you lose your job, one of the better things you can do if you do want to get into social media is to create a plan for the type of content that you want to actually produce. Focus less on the fact that you've lost your job and concentrate on the message that you want to convey to your audience. Whether it's showing them how to live life after a layoff. And it's funny enough because I think there's a YouTube channel called Life After Layoff. Or whether it's just you creating content around a hobby that you've had all along, but now that you're no longer held down by corporate red tape, maybe you can actually launch into your own content and start creating content around that. But I will say this, the content creation market is really about to get flooded with all these layoffs because a lot of people are starting to understand that YouTube is a place where revenue can be generated. And when people have nothing else to do and nothing else to lose, they're going to take, like LeBron taking his talents to Miami, they're going to take their talents to YouTube and hope that they can somehow begin to generate revenue and start a channel and do things like that overnight. I know this isn't the type of content that I normally create, but it's shaping up to be a very cold winter. And some of the questions that I've gotten recently in my live sessions and, just online and DMs that people send me are questions that stem around, what types of games they should collect and, you know, should they start a collection? I think more than anything else right now, you should make sure your finances are in order and that you are prepared for anything that might come your way. If you are in a position of abundance and you don't have to worry about anything financial, then you can start asking those questions. But there are a lot of people who, over the last month and going into this month, may not necessarily have the luxury of video games. So if you do happen to find yourself in that position, hopefully you're able to navigate that intelligently, and, find your footing. But I just wanted to make this video to say, if you lose your job, do not come on the internet and crash out. Because while it might feel good for 10 to 15 minutes, when it's all said and done, you won't be able to pull that video back off the internet. And it's going to be out there and it will impact a lot of the things you do in the future. So a random video, a random message on the channel. Hopefully you all are having a great week and hopefully you have a great weekend. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.